Hello and welcome to episode 289 of my podcast all about knitting and crochet and my yarn shop here in Wiesbaden, Germany. I'm Kiko and today is September 22nd, 2025. And today I'm wearing my Go Dynamo shawl. This was last year's mystery knit along by Stephen West, and I'm partly wearing it today because we are preparing for the next mystery knit along. And I can't make up my mind which colors to use this year. But last year, the shawl called for two different colors. So most people would use two solid colors or maybe slightly variegated or speckled yarns. But I felt like using two very different colorful yarns. So I chose two opal yarns. One was mainly turquoise with some yellow, orange, and I think purple. And the other one was a very colorful orange, yellow, turquoise, and many other colors. And then we started last year by knitting these half circles, 1, 2, and 3. Then we joined the half circles with this pattern. Then we went down to knit this pattern and then a 2-color brioche part where I used some mohair yarn. So as the second color, I used a single color orange mohair for those two stripes. And then we knit those bits this was one color, this was the other color, and then one color, the other color. So with these shorter pieces, you can sort of see the different colors that were in the second yarn. And then we picked up stitches from the bottom of these half circles, and then we knit upwards. And there I used another bit of mohair, but not the mohair by itself, but I held it double with the contrast color. And then also in these parts, that's a slip stitch pattern, and I was a bit worried that the pattern would get completely lost with the two colorful yarns, so I decided to use a single color turquoise for this bit and this bit. So as color 1, I used the turquoise, and I used the same contrast color that I used throughout the shawl. And then I was done. I could have picked up stitches down here and knit even more, but I wasn't interested in using up all the yarn I had. And for me, this is a really good size shawl, so I decided not to do the extra bit that I could have done. And I'm pairing this today with my Sylva Slipover that I test knit just before I went on holiday, and I finished it before I went. I washed and blocked it. I didn't block it severely, I just laid it down flat to dry. I measured the whole thing, made sure that it had the right measurements, and I think I pulled it out widthwise just a little bit, partly because I didn't want it to be too snug, and also because it was technically a bit too long. And that's because in the pattern for this size, she asked to knit a certain amount of centimeters, but then she also wrote to make sure that we finish this part of the pattern. So we always start the ribbing after we've done this crossing. So that didn't quite add up for me with the centimeters. So when I had the length that I was supposed to knit, I was about here. So I finished the pattern repeat, then did the ribbing. For me, it's a really good length, so I'm not complaining. It just makes it a bit difficult to really get it spot on if you want a definite length. Otherwise, I'm really happy with the slip over. I really like those details on the back. The shoulder construction is really interesting. I love the little sort of V-neck underneath the arms. That's a really fun detail in this pattern. And this is a size smaller than I wanted to knit. And I only knit this size because she still needed a test knitter for this size. And when I started it, I was pretty sure I was going to give it away. But now I'm really happy with it. So it's not too tight. It's not as loose as I usually try and knit my things. But I'm still, I think it fits me well enough for me to keep it and wear it. And yeah, and just to show you again the size of the shawl, it's huge. And the color of the slip over is almost exactly the same color that I used as a solid color up here. So I thought this made a really good combination. Yeah, so much for what I'm wearing. Then on to finished objects. I have 2 finished objects. I have 3 new cast-ons. So yep, should have finished more, but anyway. And I have a lot of things to show today, as it's 3 weeks since the last proper episode, and I will try and be as quick as possible. Now, the first finished object are finally my lace wrist warmers. So I started off knitting this wavy pattern that I did a video on how to knit this. Do I have that in English? I'm not quite sure. But this is a very well-known pattern, so it's not really difficult to do, and you should be able to find it somewhere. And I started the first mitt using Alpaka lace yarn by Hansa Farm. And then I used carbon needles, so I could use them on the plane and in the car. But they were black, so it was really difficult to see. So when I started the second one, I was back home and I decided to use metal needles in the same size. And then I ended up having 2 different sized wrist warmers. So I knit another wrist warmer in the small size, and I knit another one in the slightly bigger size. And I was still working from the same 50-gram ball of yarn, which runs 400 meters. And then I cast on the third pair using yet a bigger needle, and I combined it with a black glitter yarn. And I love the way this came out. So these are the biggest mittens. I also added 1 pattern repeat to the length, and they're also slightly wider because I used the bigger needle, but I'm really, really happy with how they look and how they fit. They are the perfect size for me. And yeah, I can decide whether I pull them more onto the hand or more onto the arm. And it's a really nice pattern. And I think it's fascinating that the black glitter yarn held double with the black alpaca, that it really comes out this clearly. Yeah, so finally finished. I was still working from the same 50-gram ball of yarn. I still have a little bit of leftover. I have lots of leftover of the glitter yarn because that's a tiny thing with 1,000 meters of glitter yarn. So I'll be using that for quite a few more projects. And I'm happy to be finished with these. I will probably knit some more in that pattern at some point. I want to have another pair in DK weight, or maybe make some in DK weight to give away. It's a really nice pattern, but not just right now. Now, my second finished object is actually a project that you haven't seen before, because I only started it after the last episode. But I had planned on making these socks for a really long time. So this is one of the 6-ply colors out of the series Festival, which was last year's 6-ply collection by Opal. And I put one of those skeins away to knit a pair for myself. And I used the same series for the sock couple last year. So I decided I wanted to have a pair of socks for myself with the same pattern, which was a really easy pattern. So last year, the sock couple was not that much work because I used the 6-ply yarn, and I did a 1x1 rib in the beginning, and then I knit a knit 3 purl 1 rib and knit really simple socks. And that's what I did for myself. So last year I also knit a pair for my sister, but it was also a 6-ply yarn, but from a different series. It wasn't out of this series. But now I have also a pair of 6-ply socks in that same pattern. The colors are in a different place. It's a really long color repeat. So I think the color repeat is the whole foot. So this is where it repeats from there. So it's a really long color repeat, and I'm quite happy that they are this different, and yeah, really happy with how they came out. And it was a really quick project because I have small feet and this is a 6-ply yarn. Yeah, then on to works in progress. As I said, I brought quite a few. I'll continue with socks and show you how far I got with his socks from this year's sock couple. So this year I decided to use 2 colors out of the Rainforest series. This is the color for his socks. I combining them with a dark brown solid color by Opal, and they are knit toe up. I start with a 2-color pattern, then a simple foot, and then this is the top of the sock. So this is the pattern that will be visible there. And then here where the bright orange line is, this is where I will take the contrast yarn out and I will knit an afterthought heel, which is also going to be in a 2-color pattern, and then a simple leg. And I finished the first sock up here. So you end with a single color piece and then you sew the stitches onto the sock. So I did that almost completely as per pattern. The only change I made is that in the pattern you're supposed to purl around for where you fold it over directly after you do the 2-color pattern. And I didn't really like to have the purl stitches be 2 colors, so I added in 1 round of plain knitting in the main color. Then I purled the round, and then I knit the rounds that I was going to fold inwards. Hope that makes sense. Anyway, this is sock number 1 without the heel, and then I did sock number 2. Same thing. I cast on, did a 2-color toe, knit the foot. This is the contrast color for the afterthought heel, and I am knitting the leg at the moment. So again, I did the mini gusset increases and decreases, and if you look at the 2 socks next to each other again, oh, they're almost identical. I hadn't realized that. I wanted to look at how different the stripes were, but I hadn't realized they are exactly the same. Almost exactly. That's quite a surprise. That wasn't intentional. Let's see how the second pair is going to come out. If I had knit the heel straight away, they would have been different, but I didn't. I decided to do both heels straight, one after the other. So that's the only pair of socks for now. Then the next project is also sock yarn, but not a sock. And the next project is another new project, and that's the gnome for this month. So Sarah Shira decided that 2025 was going to be another year of gnomes. So everybody taking part can knit a gnome a month for as many months or few months as you want. And I decided to do it every month. And I was taking these 2 balls of yarn with me on holiday anyway, because I started a pair of socks that I'm going to show you later. But I decided I can't pack too much yarn. I did already pack a lot, but I didn't want to pack any more than I needed. So I decided that the gnome for this month was going to use the same yarn that I'm using for a pair of socks. So these are the 2 colors that I'm using for the gnome. And for the pattern, I didn't want to bring the book, so I didn't knit a gnome. But I looked at all the digital patterns that I've bought over the years, and I realized that I think, was it 3 years ago? The mystery gnome was called Choose Your Gnome Adventure. So that was a gnome pattern where you had 5 different options for the hat, 5 different options for the body, and I think 2 options for the beard. And you had 2 sizes that you could knit with the same weight of yarn. So if you used a different weight of yarn, you had even more options. And back when that was running, I already knit 2 gnomes, but I didn't use up all the options. So I decided I'm going to knit another Choose Your Gnome Adventure gnome. And the gnome that you can see over there, that was one of the 2 that I knit back then. The other one was a really big one. I knit the big size out of a big yarn, and that one sits at home and keeps the doors open. So yeah, but I wanted to show him. And I used this yarn for the hat. And I chose the fairly simple option for a hat. I did want to have a little bit of pattern down here, but instead of doing a 2-color pattern, which would have been too wild with those 2 colors, I just improvised a little like a seat stitch pattern with a zigzag. It's probably not really visible. I just played around with some knit and purl stitches. And then I picked up stitches with the other yarn. So this is this year's Schafpate. Keep forgetting what that's called in English, but anyway. And this was from last year's Schafpate series. And I thought they are quite fun together. But because this yarn is really very colorful and variegated, I decided to not put any pattern in the body, so I knit a really simple stockinette body, and I am almost at the point where I again purl around and then finish the bottom of the gnome, and then I'll have to knit the beard and arms and nose. And I will try and do that all this week so that I can get it done within the month and I can post it as my September gnome. Yep, so that's a really fun and colorful pattern project. The next project that I'm going to show you is one of 2 old projects, or 3, that I decided to tackle during my holidays. So I thought it's a good time to look at some old whips that I had lying around. And I started this out of alpaca sock yarn by Hansa Farm with the solid dark blue and a variegated light and middle blue yarn. And I had planned to knit a headband. So I wanted to knit this so long that it fits around my head, and then I wanted to do this maneuver where I sew it together so that it looks as if it was knotted or something. But I wasn't really into the project anymore, and there's a different headband pattern that I wanted to do, and I wasn't sure which colors to use because I felt I had to finish this one. And then I met my sister during my holidays, and then she encouraged me to just knit wrist warmers. So this is where I started because I thought I was going to sew it together. It's just stockinette, and I think I'd only done 1 pattern repeat and a bit. So during the holidays, I finished the 2nd and the 3rd pattern repeat and knit a little bit of ribbing. And these are going to be wrist warmers for my sister. She said she likes them. She wanted to have them. And now, instead of starting the 2nd one, I'll actually knit the headband that I wanted to do. And once I finish that, I will knit the 2nd wrist warmer for her. And then I hopefully will have both project finished. So this is a half-finished project. Yep. And the next project is again something little, and that's the mandalas that I started crocheting from the book Mix and Match Mandalas that I showed you last week. And last week I'd finished the first small mandala, and then before I went on holiday I finished the 2nd small mandala and I started the 3rd, but I didn't get round to finishing it. I didn't take it with me on holiday because I didn't want to carry the book. So I'll probably finish this one this week, and then at some point I'll repeat one of the 3 little ones and continue it into the 2nd size. So these are my sister's colors, so she will probably get this if she wants to have it, and this isn't finished yet. We'll see what it looks like once it's done, and then I'll show you all 3 so you can see the differences. Then I actually took that with me on holiday, and this is the Pattern Battle toddler dress that I was knitting out of this Opal subscription colorway. And all I had to do was the ribbing, but I really wanted to get this done, so I took it with me. I finished the ribbing and I cast off, and I actually managed to knit 6 garter stripes, and then I bound off with purl stitches. So this is the 7th garter stripe, and I actually had a little bit of yarn left. So I'm really happy with how that came out, and it's almost finished. So I was thinking of showing it as a finished object, but even though I have woven in all the ends, except for the one that I want to use to sew buttons on, it doesn't have buttons yet, and it's not washed and blocked. And I'm really convinced that this is going to look rather different once it's been washed and blocked. So I did want to show it again. So this is the almost finished toddler dress. And then this week I will pick out some buttons, sew them on, and then I'll wash it. And it should be really interesting to see what this looks like next week. So that's that. Then another old project that I took with me on holiday is the dish cloths that I started knitting a long time ago. And one of the reasons was I wanted more dishcloths, but the other reason was also that I wanted to use up some of the cotton yarns that I had lying around. So I brought these 4 colors. Plus, I already started the first dishcloth before I went. I started a strip in this color. So I just cast on a number of stitches, and then I knit in garter stitch until I thought the length was good. Then I picked up stitches on the side with the pink color that I just showed you, which is one of the hobby cotton yarns that I have. And I knit until this was square. Then I cast off and I crocheted around with the leftover bit of this color. And I managed to do 2 of those hangers, and I got to here, and then the yarn was gone. So I did the rest with the pink, and I finished the first dishcloth, and then I decided I wanted to crochet one. So I crocheted a simple granny square out of 3 colors. With the granny square, I never make those loops because the granny square has so many holes everywhere. You can just hang the dishcloth from any of those holes. And then I looked at some patterns and I came across a corner to corner crochet, something that I looked at, and I remembered that, what's the designer's name? Oh, I forgot. I'll have to tell you next week. Well, I'll put it on the Ravelry page for this. I remembered that she has a video that shows you how to do corner to corner crochet with a pattern. And so this is the pattern that she uses to teach corner to corner with a pattern. And I just decided to make that. So I used the colors that I had. I crocheted this little tulip into a corner to corner crochet. I have not sat down to weave in the ends yet, so I still have to do that. But it's really nicely done. So the video walks you through the whole thing. So she does everything in front of the camera, which I think is quite good. It did come out a little too small for me to use as a dishcloth, so I crocheted 2 rounds of granny square around, and it's a bit wobbly, so I did a few stitches too many on the granny square rounds, but it's a dishcloth, so it doesn't matter. And again, because of the granny pattern, I didn't have to put any loops on it. And after I'd finished that, I wanted to go back to knitting, and I decided to do some 2-color brioche, because if I use 2 different colors, I can work both colors at the same time, so it's a fairly quick thing to do. So I just cast on a number of stitches, and I started with the 2-color brioche with the white and blue, and then I realized this was going to be too big, so I incorporated a few decreases. Then I changed to the light green color, and now I just have to keep knitting. I will probably keep decreasing, and I will probably make a 3-sided dishcloth. I think maybe I'll change my mind halfway through. I don't know yet, but I'm quite happy to have continued producing dishcloths, and I will probably make a few more, and then I will decide, or I will decide that this project is now finished, and so I can reduce the number of projects that I have underneath the video and on Ravelry that I'm still working on. So that's that. Then one of the things I took with me was the crochet top that I am crocheting out of Noro yarn. So I was very generously gifted this Noro yarn, 3 balls of that. This is the Silk Garden sock yarn, and I had a false start with that top as well. So I started with the wrong needle size, and then I tried 3 different needle sizes, and then at the end I decided that this the 5mm needle was the right needle size for me. So I continued crocheting this piece until it had the length that I would need for the front of the top, and then put it to the side. And then I took another ball of yarn with me on holiday, and I crocheted the same thing again. But this time there are more colors in the piece, because with this one I had a knot in the yarn and then the colors repeated. So there's a lot of orange in this. So this, I will continue crocheting on this to make it long enough to be the back. And I'm going to use this as the front piece. And then once I have both of those finished, I'm going to attach them to each other with some crochet chains, and then I can crochet the sides of the top. Yeah, so I'll try and finish the back this week, and then I'll see if I have time to work out how to do the sides. Now, what's next? Another top that I'm working on is a knitted top out of one of those gradient color balls of yarn by 100 Farbspiele. And I think last time I showed it to you, I had finished those 4 stripes with this dark greenish color, which was gone after the 4th stripe or after the 3rd stripe. Oh, I think the darker one was already gone here. And then I've now knitted the 3. No, I'm on the 3rd stripe with the lighter greenish color, and then as soon as I finish that stripe, that color will be gone, and then I will only have the bluish colors, and I will probably decide to begin the armhole once I finish this stripe. So I've weighed the yarn, and I still haven't used half of it. So I think once I get to the color change, this will probably be the halfway point in this ball of yarn, and then I will divide for the front and back, and I've made some plans about how to continue the stripes, which I will explain as soon as I get there, because there's just too many projects today to get into that. Now, the 3rd new cast on that I cast on during my holiday is going to be another summer top. And this is a different yarn from what I usually use. This is a Lana Grossa yarn called Arco. And it's a yarn that I bought during some holidays some time ago. I don't quite remember whether it was 1 year ago or 2 years ago. And I really liked the colors in this yarn. So it's a really colorful ball of yarn. And I just grabbed one of the 2 balls that I had and some knitting needles, and I decided I will cast on something during my holiday. And again, I went through the patterns that I have in my Ravelry library, and I realized that I have several of Nicolor's patterns that I haven't knit yet. And Nicolor is the queen of patterns where you do not have to swatch. So I knew I could just use the yarn and use the needles. I don't have to swatch. I don't have to have a certain gauge to knit her pattern. And I decided to knit the Catty corner pullover. It's supposed to be a pullover. I will probably just knit it as a top. And as most of her maximum freedom patterns, you start at the back of the neck, and then you start with a little triangle, and then you cast on stitches for the front, and then you keep knitting. And with a Catty corner, you have 4 points where you increase your stitches, but you increase 1 stitch every round instead of 2 increases or 8 increases every other round. So the beginning of the top, you have a straight line down the below your neck, but then the increase sort of veers to the side, and then all 4 increase points have those not straight line of increases. And I've put in a long cable just to see what the top looks like at the moment, and I left it in so I could show it to you. So the bit with the triangle, that's the back. So the bit on the other side is going to be the front, and this is sort of what it's going to look like. And I think it's a really funny construction, some very clever ideas incorporated as usual with Nicolor, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how this is going to work out. At first I was a bit worried whether I would have enough yarn, but right now I'm quite confident that those 2 balls will be enough to make a summer top for me. Now that's all the garments that I have on the needle that I worked on. I worked on one of my skirts. I did not bring the one with the beads because of the beads. I hope to get to do some knitting on it this week, but I brought the skirt with the short rows, and that was a perfect project for the car rides because I'm not using double pointed needles and it's garter stitch, so it's a fairly simple thing. And I added quite some rows to this skirt. Still looks really short, but then remember I am short. And I'm using 3 different colorways of opal yarn. I'll show them again sometime in the future when I don't have as many projects with me. And I think I've probably finished half the skirt. So this sort of looks like it's should fit around half of me. So yeah, still a lot of work to do, but I'm quite happy that I continued on that and that it is growing. That brings me to my 2 blankets. And I did, I think I brought 3 different colors of Alpaka DK yarn by Hansa Farm with me. I only finished 2 motifs. I did start the 3rd one, but I only did like 2 or 3 rounds, so I didn't bring it. So this is the pink colorway, and this is, I think, the middle gray that they have. And yeah, these are the 2 that I finished. Whenever I felt like doing a blanket, this is what I worked on, because I did not bring the Mandala Madness blanket, because this is, even though we went by car, this is just too huge to carry around. But I crocheted 1 round on it before I left on holiday, and I crocheted almost 2 rounds last night. So looking forward to working on that again. So the last time I showed it to you, I had done this light blue round here and here. And then the round that I did before I went on holiday was this light purple, where I crocheted these interesting looking thingies here and a very simple round here. It's almost invisible. Then the next dark purple round, put another tiny round on here, and you can see these long single crochets going here and here and here. This is a very nice detail. It's easy to do, makes it easier to count. That was quite interesting. Then after doing these things with the light purple, this first round of dark purple just went sort of behind the stitches with what do you call them in English? Back post single crochets going behind the light purple motifs. And then the next round, where did I started the next round here. Okay, let's show this first. I did some slightly bigger stitches onto the simple part, and sorry, get tangled in the yarn. And then I did these bigger motifs in between the light purple ones. So there were 4 of the light purple ones, and then there's 5 of these scallops behind the light purple one. And I know that in the next round, the tip of these motifs, they will get crocheted into so that they will stay like this and they won't flop over like this. And I'll give you a quick look at the whole blanket. Where is this yarn? Where does that go? Okay, so this is just a very quick look. this is what it looks like now. Okay, now on to the knit-alongs that I'm running this year with the socks. So we have a different pair of socks every month. In August, I did a tutorial video on how to add beads to your knitting. And this was the first sock that I knit, where I put the beads in a circle, which was supposed to be a circle. It kind of looks like a square. And then I knit a fairly simple sock. And then I started the second pair, and I told you I was going to arrange the beads in a different pattern. And this is what I came up with. It sort of looks like a cloud, but all I did was make sure that there were spaces in between the beads, but I was still using the same number of beads and the same number of rounds for this part of the sock. And I don't mind that they're different. This was a learning experience, and this is a really nice pattern, I think. And I knit down towards the heel, finished the heel, and started on the foot. So this is it's again by 100 Farbspiele, but it's not a gradient. It's just 4 different colored strands of yarn. But I really, really like the effect of how the colors play together, and really enjoy knitting with this. I'm really looking forward to wearing these socks and washing them and see how that works out. Now, for this month's sock, I showed you how to knit stripes, different colored stripes. Now, for the baby sock, I used a variegated yarn and a solid color. And I think that was a good idea, because for my socks, I decided to use those 2 colors. This is why I packed those 2 balls of yarn, and I started knitting. And and I showed you how to do it toe up. That was the main idea behind it. I did toe up socks, but then I showed you how to do stripes, and I also did the heel in 2 different colors. Yeah, and I did the same thing with my socks. Now, the yarn is so colorful that you can't really tell which color is which, and there are so many more stripes than I knit into it. That's it's a bit crazy. But this is my first color, so this is this yarn. And then the first half of the heel is the other yarn. This is again this yarn. And I also did the ribbing just with the 1 color. And I like the sock. I think it looks really fun and really crazy. Now with this sock, I did 6 round stripes. So after every 6 rounds, I changed the color. With the second sock, I'm going to change after 3 rounds. So that should be interesting to see how the stripes are going to differ. What's also interesting is to see the gnome next to the socks, because this is the 1 color, this is the other color. With the gnome, I really kept them separate. With the sock, I mixed them. So I think it's really funny. But I'm a bit crazy with colors anyway, so as this short proves. Now this is the first sock, which is done. I started the second one, but I only knit the toe. So I'm still on the 1 ball of yarn, and I've stopped here until I've finished the body of the gnome, so I don't have both projects hanging off of the same ball of yarn. So as soon as the body of the gnome is done, I can continue with the socks. Okay, so that was quite a lot. It was a bit longer than usual. I hope you don't mind. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!